In 1941, the US government calls the Macon County Draft Board and has 399 black men removed from the military enlistment list, not because they are unfit to serve, but because if they are drafted, they will receive the standard syphilis treatment given to every other recruit. The study requires them to stay sick. Their government needs them untreated more than it needs them alive. It is 1941. The United States is entering a war. Men across Macon County, Alabama are receiving draft notices. Among them are hundreds of black sharecroppers who have been enrolled for 9 years in what they believe is a government medical program. They are prepared to serve. The Public Health Service makes a single phone call to the local draft board. Their names come off the list. The documented internal reason is precise. Military induction would expose them to routine syphilis treatment. That cannot be allowed. The study's integrity depends on the men remaining untreated. The government has now moved beyond withholding medicine. It has intervened, actively and deliberately, to keep American citizens sick. This is not bureaucratic negligence. It is a decision made by named officials in a federal agency, recorded in documents that still exist, about the lives of men whose names they also recorded. The study has 9 more years before penicillin changes everything. It has 31 more years before anyone outside the government knows it exists. It begins in 1932. Macon County is one of the poorest counties in the United States. The men who live here are black sharecroppers, largely without access to medical care of any kind. When Public Health Service officials arrive offering a free medical program, free meals on examination days, free transportation, free burial insurance, it is not a difficult offer to accept. 412 men with syphilis and 204 without enroll. They are told they have bad blood, a local term for a range of conditions, and that the government is offering treatment. They sign nothing. They are given no diagnosis. The study's actual title is never shared with them. It is the Tuskegee Study of Untreated Syphilis in the Negro Male. The word untreated appears in the title of every internal document. It appears in none of the communications with the men themselves. The original design is 6 to 8 months. Observe the natural progression of untreated syphilis in black men. The existing medical literature on syphilis progression had been compiled almost entirely from studies of white European men. The Public Health Service wants a comparison data set. 6 to 8 months. Collect the data, end the study. That is what the record shows as the stated rationale. What the record does not explain is why, when 6 months becomes a year, and a year becomes 5, and 5 becomes 9, no one ends it. In 1966, 34 years after the study begins, Peter Buxton is a venereal disease investigator working for the Public Health Service in San Francisco. He is not a journalist. He is not an activist. He is a government employee processing routine files. When he encounters the Tuskegee study documentation, he reads it and writes a formal internal letter of concern to his superiors. The letter asks a direct question: does this study violate basic principles of medical ethics? The response from the Centers for Disease Control is documented. The study should continue until all participants have died and been autopsied. Buxton writes again in 1969. He is again dismissed. He is transferred out of the department. The study is reviewed by a CDC advisory panel that same year. The panel, which includes one black physician, votes unanimously to continue. Buxton keeps the files. In 1972, he takes them to journalist Jean Heller of the Associated Press. On July 25, 1972, 40 years after the study began, the story runs on the front page of newspapers across the country. What the documents show is not ambiguous. They do not require interpretation. In 1943, the Public Health Service opens rapid treatment centers across the South, offering free penicillin to syphilis patients. The Tuskegee men are specifically and deliberately excluded. There is a list. Their names are on it. The exclusion is not an oversight. Local doctors in Macon County receive written correspondence from the Public Health Service asking them not to treat study participants for syphilis. The letters name the men. The doctors comply. When participants are hospitalized for any reason, researchers contact the hospitals directly to ensure no syphilis treatment is administered during their stay. The men are given something. They receive aspirin, they receive vitamins, they receive iron tonic. These are administered not as a genuine attempt at care, but as placebo maintenance. Enough to preserve their participation, not enough to affect their condition. The burial insurance is not incidental. In Macon County in 1932, a guaranteed government-funded burial is a meaningful financial protection for a family with nothing. The study is structured around the specific vulnerabilities of the men inside it. Their poverty is a design feature. By the time the story breaks in 1972, 28 of the original participants have died directly of syphilis. Over 100 have died of related complications. 40 wives have been infected. 19 children have been born with congenital syphilis. These are the numbers in the public record. They are minimums. The study's data collection was designed to serve research outcomes, not to accurately account for the human cost. The federal response moves quickly in the specific direction of containment. An ad hoc advisory panel is convened within weeks. It concludes the study was ethically unjustified. It recommends immediate termination. The study ends in November 1972. It has run for exactly 40 years. There are 74 survivors. In 1973, Senator Edward Kennedy convenes hearings. The testimony is unambiguous. Public health service officials confirm the study's design, its duration, and the mechanisms used to prevent treatment. Dr. John Heller, who directed the venereal disease unit from 1943 to 1948, testifies that the men's status did not warrant ethical debate. He is referring to their race. He does not state this plainly. The transcript makes it available to anyone who reads it carefully. In 1974, the federal government settles a class action lawsuit for $10 million. $9 million goes to survivors and heirs. $1 million covers legal costs. The settlement contains no admission of wrongdoing. No individual is charged. No individual is prosecuted. No one loses their medical license. No one goes to prison. The men who designed the study, the officials who voted in 1969 to continue it, the doctors who received the letters and did not treat their patients, they retire. Some receive commendations. In 1997, President Clinton delivers a formal apology in the White House. 8 survivors attend. Clinton acknowledges the study was deeply, profoundly, morally wrong. He uses the word racist. It is the first time a sitting president has used that word in this context in an official statement. The apology is delivered 65 years after the study began. 5 of the 8 men present that day are dead within 3 years of the ceremony. Herman Shaw is 94 years old when he sits in the White House in 1997. He enrolled in the study in 1932 at the age of 29. He is a farmer. For 40 years he believes he is receiving government medical care. He receives aspirin and iron tonic. He watches men he knows from the study die. He does not learn the truth until Jean Heller's story runs in 1972. 4 decades after he first trusted the government official who came to Macon County with a clipboard and a promise. When asked what he wants people to understand, Herman Shaw does not say they were failed. He says they were used. That distinction is his. It belongs to him. He dies in 1999 at the age of 96, having outlived the men who designed the study and several of the officials who voted in 1969 to continue it. The Tuskegee Study ends in 1972. The Belmont Report, the document that establishes the modern framework for ethical human research in the United States, is published in 1979 as a direct consequence. Informed consent becomes federal law. Institutional review boards become mandatory for any research involving human subjects. The entire architecture of modern medical ethics in America is constructed in measurable part because of what was done in Macon County. Every clinical trial conducted in the United States today operates inside that framework. Every consent form signed before an experimental treatment, every ethics board review before a study begins. That infrastructure exists because 399 black men were told they were being treated and were not for 40 years by the agency responsible for their public health. The Belmont report does not name Tuskegee in its opening. It does not need to. Everyone in the room, when it is written, knows exactly what it is a response to. The question it cannot answer, and does not try to, is whether the conditions that made Tuskegee possible were dismantled along with the study, or whether they were simply made less visible. This file is now unsealed. Subscribe, and you'll be there when the next one opens. The vault never stays closed.